What would happen if a meathead who was too angry to die were to be transported into another world? Not just a fantasy world, but a world so crappy. I'm talking about your women getting kidnapped, your people getting killed just for existing, Mustache Man ruling over you, a world so trash that even Jesus Christ turned to the dark side and decided to delete everyone off the face of the planet. We got Toyohisa here running through the field during the samurai era. A big battle is happening between his clan and another clan, which brother appears on the battlefield and instantly begins taking heads. As his boys are getting killed, Toyohisa comes in and slaughters these guys like they are nothing. No one is really a match for him. A side character tries to run up on him, thinking that he's really something, but brother gets pounced on and stabbed in the face. Now, despite this, it does seem like his clan is losing. As they charge into battle against the opposing side, Toyohisa is still taking heads over here, which as horses charge him, this maniac charges them as well. Toyohisa's uncle and his clan are now retreating, but this man Toyohisa says, "Nah, I'm trying to die here tonight. I'd rather die than run away from battle." His uncle is like, "Damn, this idiot," and tells him he'll be waiting for him at home. But this will be the last time Toyohisa will ever be seen. Toyohisa is rather happy that his uncle will miss him. Luckily, a few of his men stayed to fire muskets at the charging forces. The forces though don't stop and continue charging. Toyohisa bursts through the smoke and instantly cuts two people down. The enemies are absolutely shocked at this man dragging his elephant-sized balls across the battlefield before cutting this man's head like nothing. The commander appears before him though and tries to announce himself. He lets Toyohisa know that he has lost. His entire clan will be killed, but Toyohisa doesn't care and begins clashing with this man. His goons go back in to protect him though, and they hold out spears to stop Toyohisa. But this menace decides to jump straight into death and is stabbed 100 times in the gut. Somehow though, he doesn't die and pulls out a gun before blowing it at the commander's head. He misses though, but this causes them to be scared. Toyohisa falls and manages to get up. They realize that they might have just encountered the main character, so they run off, causing Toyohisa to be like, "No, give me your head." I mean, your head. Toyohisa is now traversing through the rainy darkness, where he is trying to get home, but he finds himself in a white hallway. There's a strange man in the middle of it, reading a magazine. Toyohisa is speechless and stunned. The man suddenly looks at his clock and says, "Next, please." Toyohisa though asks what he means and who this man is.
"I'm going back. Let me go back."
But suddenly, Toyohisa begins getting pulled into the portal, where he is sucked in and disappears within it. Toyohisa then appears in an empty field, bloody. Luckily, a couple of elf boys find him dead. They speak a different tongue, but it's clear that they want to help Toyohisa. But Toyohisa thinks that these guys are long-eared demons, meaning he was sent to hell. These elves refer to Toyohisa as a drifter, where they begin dragging him through the darkness. He's rather heavy, but these elves bring him to this ruin. They get called out by a strange woman who holds them at ballpoint. She demands why they are here. They explain the situation and tell them that this man is just like her, so that's why they brought him here. Those kids are rather kind. The girl here recognizes his outfit, where she begins talking to the men in the cave about Toyohisa's injuries. Our brother Toyohisa wakes up to a homeless man who tells him that he stitched him up. As Toyohisa draws his blade and tries to cut him down while demanding to know who he is, the man also demands to know who he is. Toyohisa though recognizes this man who is part of Oda Nobunaga's clan, one of the most notorious and infamous clans in Japan, the clan of the Demon Lord. This man though says that, oh no, he is Oda Nobunaga himself. As he says this, Toyohisa tries to cut him down and tells him that he must be an imposter cause Oda Nobunaga is dead, as they are about to kill each other. This woman comes in and fires an arrow to stop them. She returns to hand Oda a duck and demands he earns his keep. She turns to Toyohisa and asks if he's got time before handing him a duck as well. They end up sitting down and plucking ducks for the whole night. While this good food is cooking, they begin talking about Japan. Toyohisa tells them that he can't be Oda cause Oda died 18 years ago, clearly stating that Oda must be crazy or a ghost. The girl laughs and tells them her name. Her name is Yuichi, the hero of Japan from 400 years ago. Toyohisa calls BS and tells her at least this geezer chose a lie that made sense. Oda ends up asking Toyohisa where he is from then. When he answers, Oda begins clowning him and asking where that location even is. He finds it at the bottom of Japan. Yuichi also clowns him for living there. To them, that place is just filled with country boys. This country boy though is a hawhead, but at least knows when to sit down and talk. Oda speaks about how they were transported the same way Toyohisa did. They end up getting into an argument where Oda asks what happened to his son. Toyohisa tells him that his son died fighting, which Oda tries to laugh it off, but it's clear that he's affected. These fellows are actually being stalked by this woman, who will later be revealed. Now, I will be ranking these three on the G tier list, which you already know our boy Toyohisa is about to kill it. While this is happening, the two boys who saved Toyohisa are now being scolded by their older brother for saving Toyohisa, who is a drifter, meaning other worlders. This won't save them though, cause even Toyohisa smells blood in the air. The three now know something is up, Oda informs them on this and tells them about the elves who saved him. Toyohisa suddenly sprints forward, which confuses Oda. He just keeps on running and saying that he's gonna take some heads. While Toyohisa loves head, he's actually only 30, while Oda is 50 and this girl is actually 19. As they sprint onwards, they spot these elves who are in danger. As they are being hunted down by a man on horse, they spot this menace charging forward. Oda suddenly fires a shot into one of their skulls, killing them, and making the others freeze in horror. Toyohisa makes a badass entrance and thanks them before planting his feet and cutting this man down. As the other soldier goes to cut him down, Toyohisa swings his sword and cuts him in half before parrying the other guy and swinging down on him. I'm gonna get some head tonight. As this man tries to say hell nah in his own language, Toyohisa says anyone who doesn't speak to him in his own language dies. Toyohisa then approaches these elf kids and thanks them. Oda though appears and calls him a hypocrite since these elves don't speak the same language either. This makes Toyohisa turn on these kids and demand that they yell out, "Help me Toyohisa, help me Toyohisa." Oda ends up regretting making fun of Toyohisa. He now though decides to take the village and liberate the elven people who are now being gathered by these knights. They try to plead for their lives and ask what they did wrong, but this man says that they're going to die for saving a drifter. Associating with other worlders in this world is a death sentence. The man here makes it clear that one of the elves get up and tells them that they're being unreasonable. They need to enter the forest to hunt and get firewood, but these knights won't let them even live in peace. These men have also taken their women away. Are they nothing but insects to them? The man responds with, yes, they'll be eradicating all the demi-human races before stabbing the old man from before and killing him like he's nothing. The elves ask why they are doing this, but the man says that he just wants to cut the elven population and make their lives as miserable as possible. He begins clowning this elf brother, saying that the two boys who saved the drifter is probably dead now. He makes sure that this elf boy knows that they brought this upon themselves. Suddenly though, the man's troops run up to him and tells him that the field of wheat is burning. They are confused and shocked by this unexpected event, which is actually due to Oda, who is using a battle tactic, trying to make sure that these elves know that they have nothing to lose, so they will soon stand up and trample their oppressors. These night guys are shocked, which the commander tells them to put out the fire, but it's too late. There's also a menace running through the field of flames. It's Toyohisa. Brother is looking like a demon, and they realize that it's a drifter. Toyohisa though jumps through and stabs one of them before disappearing. These guys are very confused, which Toyohisa uses the chaos to lop off some more heads. He's now getting all the head in the world. The knights become very scared, but there's no time to run because Toyohisa pierces his belly and tears him a new hole. He attacks the other guy and chops his head off as well. You there, you have a good head on your shoulders. Why don't you give it to me? You really think that I would willingly give you head? My head, in their dreams. As the elves are staring at the drifter, these kids return and tell him that the guy in red saved them. This knight commander prepares to fight, which Toyohisa gets a bad taste in his mouth after seeing what has happened here. Toyohisa becomes very enraged and tells him that he doesn't want head anymore. He wants to violate him. The knight doesn't take him seriously though, since Toyohisa doesn't speak the same language as him. One of the elves tries to warn him of the knight's skill, which Toyohisa just launches his blade towards this man. He blocks it, thinking that this is easy, but Toyohisa appears and grabs him before putting him in a guillotine and taking him down. He begins choking him, which Toyohisa pulls out his scabbard and begins beating him with it in front of these elves. These elves are shocked as they watch the tyrant who made their life hell get brutally beaten. Yuichi and Oda have dealt with the fleeing forces, which Toyohisa, after beating the man, reminds me of Ken Kaneki. But he gets up and looks at these grieving souls, a man who has lost his son. It was clear to Toyohisa, this man must take up arms. He makes sure to tell this old man here that he must kill that man for killing his son. A son mustn't die before his father. These elves realize what Toyohisa is saying, despite him speaking another tongue. The elves approach this man. He tries to plead for his life like a pathetic coward, but these elves make sure that they thoroughly kill him. After killing the tormentor, the elves look at Toyohisa, who have made these prideless weak fools into young warriors. These guys randomly show up, which Toyohisa wonders where they were the whole time, while he was doing most of the work. Oda tells him to sit on this place, which the elves are now gathered and prepared to follow this great man into battle. Y'all know what's crazy? It's only been a couple of days, and Toyohisa has already conquered a freaking village of demi-humans. Toyohisa seems to have a stalker though, cause this white-haired woman gets caught by him, and she thinks that this barbarian is about to cut her down, which he does with his hand. Did she just... ends. Well, these fools end up interrogating her and scaring her into revealing her intentions. Turns out that she's part of the October Burst or something, who guides the drifters together to stand up against the Ents, who are led by the Black King, who are currently wiping the floor with the demi-human race. That's the Ents' whole goal, is to delete mankind completely. The girl tells him that there are many other drifters just like him, who aim to fight against the Ents. After that, she asks if they can untie her now. Toyohisa says nah, while Oda is over here role-playing as a demon lord. He gets flamed by Toyohisa, where Yuichi questions why she thinks that they are drifters, who are good, while the Ents are bad. She tells him that it's obvious, cause Ents annihilate any human they come across. As she asks them for help, Oda asks if they're gonna fight the Ents, how many troops do they have? She freezes, so he asks the question again. Since you're gonna fight the Ents, how big is your army? She completely avoids the question and tells him that she pleads the fifth, which Oda completely realizes that these goofies don't have a force at all. They just plan to negotiate with other countries. Pretty much go over to kings and lords, ask them to hand over their armies to some group of nobodies known as drifters. Oda makes a good argument. It's better to be realistic than deluded. She asks what she should do then, which Oda says, isn't it obvious? We drifters will take over the kings and lords. They don't have to hand over anything. They will be taking the countries by force and acquiring the armies in a more firm means. Help us topple your empire, woman. Oda made Toyohisa leader, which Toyohisa isn't fond of. Both of them team up on Toyohisa, which this girl finds these three rather charming. Well, Toyohisa better hurry and become king, cause the Black King is folding any kingdom he comes across right now. This man has racked up like 5 million kills in just a few days. I'm not gonna spoil you guys on who he is yet, but the elves are now discussing what to do. Since they just murked a couple of knights, the lord of this domain will definitely seek retribution and eradicate them, since these elves are beginning to rebel. They also have no food left, so they decide to die in war instead of dying from hunger. This girl appears and begins speaking like a crazy person.
Am Sims Joy Poo! Lo Gor Siki Thun! Oh Nobu Nobu! Yoichi! Toyo Toyo!
What is he doing?
Damn it, they don't understand him at all.
These two are worried for Yuichi, which Toyohisa asks this girl how she can even speak their language, where she reveals that she uses a talisman to translate the language. So Beth scares Yuichi embarrass herself for no reason. Not sure why she's all caked up, but they make the white-haired girl apologize before handing these talismans out. She then slaps it onto Yuichi's face.
Good evening, all. Good evening, all. Good evening, all. Good evening, all.
Idiot! They were scared enough of us as it was! Don't slap it onto his face!
As the ruckus dies down, Oda inspects the talisman and recognizes the writing and design. It's clearly Japanese. The girl says that she didn't make it. It was her grandmaster. Oda then gets information on the elves that they used to be a prideful race until they lost the war against the humans and turned into serfs. Oda whispers to Toyohisa and tells him to tell the elves to grow some balls. Toyohisa steps forward and tells these elves that if their ancestors were here, they die of shame. Your women were taken, your children slaughtered. If you don't stand up for freedom, your children will feel the humiliation if you don't stand up and fight. Either die on your knees or die standing like a man.
Decide!
Of course we've shamed our forefathers. We know they've got us under their heel. We would give anything to live free.
Well said. It's time to cast off your chains. Oda begins reminiscing about his son, seeing that Toyohisa is a lot like his son, which Toyohisa asks why he is the leader. And as Oda is laughing, it makes it clear to Oda that he is not his son. His son died a long time ago, which makes Oda frustrated and stammer. He says that he knows and faces the wall. Toyohisa begins feeling bad, but he can also see his father within Oda, which Oda turns back and tells him that he is not his father. They get into a crazy fight where Yuichi randomly joins for no reason. This elf called Sharla tells them to stop bickering among themselves, which Toyohisa and Oda begin making plans. The enemy reinforcement will be here in a day, so they better hurry up. The sunrise after the next will be the last this village sees. The elves realize this, and Sharla asks these drifters to leave them to victory, because they have no idea the art of warfare. Oda wants more info and asks Sharla how old he is. Sharla says that he is 106 years old, but Oda doesn't believe it and says that he'll kill him if he's lying. Toyohisa asks these kids how old they are.
I'm 39. I'm 36.
Oda, to deal with the shock, gropes this white-haired girl. She backs away and explains that these elves have naturally longer lives and mature way slower than humans. She begins explaining that the Empire, who these knights are from, grew powerful by using conquered residents to do their bidding in the mines and field. That's how it became overpowered. Oda points out that this empire is greedy and a hoarder, cause they are focusing on keeping their captured land instead of expanding, which is a fatal flaw. Oda digs into the fact that this was the final nudge for these elves. They can no longer take this lying down. He asks what the leader Toyohisa should do, which he says that they will let them in and cut them down. The enemy army is now approaching the village. They have heard of what happened there. They number 200 and are now here to wipe out the elven village. They arrive and check the village, but the entire place is empty. Even the captain is confused. They don't know that only death awaits them. There is no escape. One of the soldiers report that there is something up with the wells. They contaminated their own wells with feces. They've also dug up their own feces and took it along with them. While this is happening, the crew is organizing material and equipment. These elves are naturally good at bows, but Oda would like to have some spearmen since they are easy to use. Yuichi is gearing up the elves and reusing the gear from the corpses. Speaking of corpses, Toyohisa buried their heads, while Oda took their bodies and threw them in a pit filled with poop and piss. The girl in the back wants to throw up, but Oda is planning on making saltpeter. It will allow explosives and gunpowder to be possible. Toyohisa is unapologetic and tells the white-haired girl that he showed them enough respect. Their bodies shall become usage of warfare. Oda appears in front of this girl and demands sulfur from her organization. He keeps teasing her, so she isn't too pleased. The elves have begun honing their skills in bowmanship. Yuichi points out their exceptional skills, which Sharla begins bragging about how they're very skilled and used to practice as children. Yuichi decides to humble these elves by firing an arrow directly into the target. The elves are amazed, but Yuichi is ruthless and makes them note that they are crap at archery. Toyohisa has gathered the elves and orders them to ambush and kill everyone they see. They'll after march to the Lord's castle and take his head, which confuses Oda. These two told me something. The reason why we see no women among their people. Charlotte reveals the reason why they could never fight back. It was cause their women were taken hostage. Oda now knows the brutal plan of the lords to kill the elves off. Toyohisa decides to put a fire into these brothers' souls. Fight for your wives and children. Have courage to look past their cages. Find the men who reduce you to livestock and butcher them for their villainy. If they cut you dead, you look your fathers in heaven in their eyes and tells them, you died fighting. Redeem your wives and daughters. Free them from their bondage. Reclaim your people's home. Reclaim your soul. This man before us is a warrior down to his very bones. His swordsmanship wasn't his biggest talent, but something else. When he speaks his heart, men will follow him to hell. What a fire he kindles. Dark arrives. These knights are standing guard. As they are questioning and joking about killing elves, one gets shot with an arrow. The others are peacefully complaining about the lack of water. They clearly want to make these elves pay for living peacefully, which Toyohisa appears to slaughter them, chopping heads off left and right. This brother is a freaking monster. These guys didn't get pelted by arrows, and they attempt to chase Toyohisa, not realizing that they should actually be running. They think that they can corner him, not realizing that Toyohisa is playing the bait. Oda prepares these elves and gives them to march on. They carry the logs and equipment quickly to the village. Toyohisa is running these guys' fades, and as they are freaked out by his craziness, a carriage comes out of nowhere. Some of the knights get killed by the arrows. It's Oda, who is working these elves to the bone. They are hustling to put up a fence together quickly to ambush these oncoming knights. Oda then orders them to fire these fire arrows upon their homes. They no longer live here. As the knights are confused, Oda prepares to turn these weak elves into a deadly force. The knights charge forward, which leads elves take aim and fire upon Oda's orders. It's absolutely deadly, and these guys begin dropping like flies. Oda knows that he doesn't have to kill everyone, cause these knights are cowards and will soon flee after seeing their comrades die. Now, these arrows are dipped in crap. It's a deadly concoction, which they fire upon these guys who are hit by it. Everyone panics as arrows pummel them. One guy points out the feces on the arrows. The guy says that he should use water to clean it out, but there's no water. The captain now knows that this was a death trap. All the knights try to leave. Someone begins loudly moaning. It makes everyone freeze. It's Toyohisa, who wants some head again. He prepares before launching himself forward and jumping towards the commander and slicing off his head like a menace. He instantly makes everyone crap themselves and flee in fear. The elves are surprised that they won, as they are trying to celebrate. Toyohisa says that they aren't done till they kill the lord. Oda asks if he has a plan, but he says no. Y'all must be wondering where Yuichi is. Well, these knights are running and end up running into a pit trap. The spikes are covered in feces. Before they can react, they get hit with arrows. They begin trying to run, but they will soon be hunted down by the ones they once hunted like animals. Oh, how karma goes full circle.
Here we go! Time for inspection!
The lord of this domain is fearful of the elves, knowing that the demi-humans are just one step away from revolting against them. He's eagerly waiting for his 200 troops to return. There's barely any guards left, in fact, thus he sent them all out. A guard comes in and tells him that his troops have returned. Reporting in on the lord's troops. Well, rest in peace everyone here in the castle, because these guys end up opening the gates for these bloodthirsty elves and drifters. They enter the castle nonchalantly, where the lord approaches and asks if the elves have revolted. This guy takes off his helmet and is Oda, who says that. You can say that. The lord becomes very shocked as these guys take over the castle. Toyohisa removes his armor and demands to know where the women and children are. He worries for them most, while Oda here answers the lord's questions. When he asks where his soldiers are, he tells them that they are laying in his shit pit for him to make gunpowder out of. Toyohisa runs in and cuts down one of the guards. The other becomes very scared and drops his weapon in fear, while this elf tries to cut him down, but Toyohisa stops him and tells him to fight with honor. Toyohisa continues forward before kicking down a door and finds something so heinous, vile, disgusting, something that will make any man's blood boil. I'll save you all the trauma, but it's horrible enough for Toyohoshi to make this expression and completely forget about honor or mercy. These men in this castle must be purged like the disease they are. You know you screwed up when Toyohoshi, who is a Chad, decides you shouldn't be allowed to live any longer. Oda, on the other hand, is nonchalantly raiding the castle. The white-haired girl comes in confused. She approaches him and he decides to point out this painting of someone. He questions who this is, which the white-haired girl tells him that it's a man who was brought into this world. She isn't sure who this is either, but I'm sure that we all do. That mustache, it's dreadful. The elves come in and tell Oda that Toyohisa dragged the Romanian knights to the courtyard, yelling about these men having a disease. Oda is shocked and confused, but quickly comes to understand what Toyohisa must be outraged over. My lord, what disease do they have? Still drawing breath. He thinks that Toyohisa is an idiot for not coming to the conclusion that these elves' wives must have been the outlet for these men's lust. Oda doesn't want Toyohisa to get his hands dirty, so as Toyohisa is over here watching these animals beg for their disgusting lives, Toyohisa only wonders if when the elves asked these men for mercy, they did not torch their village and sully their women. How vile these men are to tell Toyohisa that he'll regret it if he kills them. The elves draw their arrows, and Charla pleads for Toyohisa to give the orders for them to kill these disgusting creatures. But as Toyohisa is about to give the order, he gets knocked out by Oda, who clearly doesn't want to dirty the hand of their future king, but instead, he'll do Toyohisa's dirty work for him. All this time, you force your lust upon their women. Now that you face true retribution, you think that you might dodge it by laying down your arms. Cowards. You should have erased these elves when you had the chance. Now, you would be the one to be erased.
Take aim! Mercy, I beg of you!
Mercy, you say? Where was our mercy in all of the years of torment? If you are a man, you take your death in silence. One of the men got up and said that he never touched a woman in his life. Honest to God. Doesn't matter, cause Oda gives the order to send these creatures to hell, where they belong. Toyohisa wakes up and finds that everything is over. Oda is quite arrogant about protecting Toyohisa's righteous image, but Toyohisa doesn't want his pity, so he punches Oda and tells him that he doesn't care if Oda is a butcherer. He's a warrior, the same as him. Don't belittle or shelter me like a child. This shocks everyone. Yoichi finally makes it back, where she points out the quarrel, but Toyohisa says, nah, there was no quarrel, just two men coming to an understanding. After everything is over, the guy from before gets approached by Yuichi, who wants to kill him, but the guy says that he hasn't even seen a woman in his life before. The elves don't want to kill him, since it doesn't seem like he did anything wrong. Yuichi is rather surprised by their mercy. Well, they are certainly different from their enemies. They say that you are what you bring your vengeance upon, but I think not. The great rumors of the drifters helping the elven people spread like wildfire to the other nearby villages of elves, who have also been oppressed, and no carried by the harmed women, writing the words, your women have returned home, but for how long? When the Lord's replacement is named, will you meekly hand them back, so he can slake his lust, or will you fight back for your homes? Join us, and I will seek that you keep them. Both Oda and Toyohisa had a part in this letter. Oda's part was the clear fact that the empire was no longer powerful. After decades of conquest, it was stretched thin. It's only a matter of time till the blade is brought to his neck. That blade will be carried by Toyohisa and his new warriors. Comment down, boys, if you want part 2. Let me know if y'all want this type of commentary. As well as, if you want to help support the channel, you can like, subscribe, or follow me on Instagram. You can also get a 100kg gripper to help you on your training journey. It helps me out a lot, and the 100kg gripper will also support you to start or progress through your self-improvement. You may join the community in the description. It's mostly for self-improvement, so if you want to become something great, let's do it together. Alright guys, I got a proposition for y'all, alright? So ever since I started YouTube, I wanted to do something, alright? It was promote fitness, help people get fit, and also help people, alright? People overall, pretty much. If you guys wanna donate some money, and I'm gonna use that pretty much to buy food for homeless, for the church people, right? And that's what that's gonna go towards, pretty much. Of course, you know, I don't expect donations, so I will provide something in return for y'all. But I appreciate you guys for listening, and peace out.